traveling on a budget in 2026 is smart, think again. Flights that look affordable online, they're loaded with hidden fees. Seat selection, luggage, even breathing space feels extra. Hostels, they're not the same anymore. Half of them now charge for Wi-Fi and breakfast.
The real cost of budget traveling is your time, your energy, and the memories you actually lose within all of this chaos.
I spent 25,000 euros for a week in a villa in Cannes, and the reason I didn't post it while I was actually there is because it's super dangerous to post where you are. If you're staying in a villa in places like the south of France, in places like Marbella, people will literally gas you inside your house. They will put gas through the air conditioning vents, gas you, or armed people come in with knives are going to come in through your villa. They're going to try and take all your expensive stuff. Watches, jewelry, bags, clothes, whatever it is. It's super, super dangerous in Europe. You just have to be aware of your surroundings.
You've saved for months, planned every detail, and finally booked that dream trip, only to realize that budget travel in 2026 doesn't mean cheap anymore. Flights cost more, hotels charge hidden fees, and even street food feels premium. Here's why traveling on a budget now sucks. Nobody's telling you. If you've been scrolling through travel TikTok lately, you've probably seen those videos. I traveled Europe for 30 days on $500, or Southeast Asia on $10 a day is still possible. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but those creators are either lying, time travelers from 2019, or they're leaving out some pretty crucial details. The truth is, budget travel in 2026 has become a completely different beast, and today, I'm going to break down exactly why trying to see the world on a shoestring budget has never been more frustrating, more expensive, and honestly, more soul-crushing than it is right now. Let's start with the most basic necessity, where you're going to sleep, and this is where things get really depressing, really fast. Hostels used to be the backbone of budget travel. You could roll into Barcelona, Bangkok, or Budapest and find a clean dorm bed for anywhere between $8 to $15 a night. But in 2026, try doubling that, or tripling it in some cases. I recently looked at hostel prices in Lisbon, a city that was the budget destination just 5 years ago, and the cheapest dorm bed I could find was €42. That's almost $50. For a bunk bed, in a room with 7 strangers who may or may not snore like freight trains. And here's the kicker. It's not even about inflation anymore. The entire hostel industry has been hit by what I call the Instagramification effect. Property owners realized they could charge boutique hotel prices by adding some fairy lights, painting a mural on one wall, and calling it a social hostel experience. They've got rooftop bars, yoga classes, and community events that sound great in theory, but really just mean you're paying premium prices for the privilege of pretending you're not sleeping in bunk beds. But it gets worse. The rise of digital nomadism has completely destroyed the traditional hostel economy. Cities that used to cater to backpackers are now filled with remote workers who book entire dorm rooms for weeks at a time, driving prices up and availability down. Try finding a hostel bed in Bali, Chiang Mai, or Mexico City on short notice. Good luck. You're competing with people who have Silicon Valley salaries and can afford to treat these places like their personal co-working spaces. Okay, you're thinking, what about Airbnb? Oh, sweet summer child, let me tell you about what's happened to Airbnb. Remember when Airbnb was supposed to be the budget traveler's secret weapon? When you could rent someone's spare room for $25 a night and feel like a local? Those days are gone. Completely obliterated. In 2026, Airbnb has become just another corporate rental platform where hosts are actually property management companies running dozens of units, and the prices look identical to hotels, except with way more fees. Let me paint you a picture. You find a listing for what looks like a decent apartment in Prague for €60 a night. Not terrible, right? Wrong. By the time you add the cleaning fee, which somehow costs €80 for a studio apartment, the service fee, the tourist tax, and the host fee, yes, that's a thing now, you're looking at €120 per night. For an apartment that doesn't even have a host present, has a lockbox for check-in, and comes with a 4-page list of rules that includes take your shoes off, don't use the air conditioning, and you'll be charged €50 if you don't position the throw pillows correctly. Now let's talk about food, because this is where budget travel really falls apart in 2026. Street food, the holy grail of budget eating, is dying, not everywhere, but in enough places to make a significant dent in your ability to eat cheaply. Gentrification and tourism have pushed street vendors out of city centers. Health regulations, which sound good on paper, have made it nearly impossible for small vendors to operate without expensive licenses and equipment. And the vendors who remain? They've caught on to tourist pricing. I was in Thailand last month, a place that built its reputation on $5 pad Thai and $2 curries. I ordered what looked like a simple noodle dish from a street cart near a popular temple in Bangkok. The vendor quoted me 400 baht, that's over $11, for something that would have cost 40 baht just a few years ago. When I protested, she just shrugged and pointed at the menu board with tourist prices that were 10 times the local rate. And before you say just eat where the locals eat, let me stop you right there. Finding where locals actually eat now requires investigative skills that would impress a private detective. Those authentic local spots are either hidden in residential neighborhoods miles from tourist areas, require a scooter or car to reach, or have been discovered and subsequently ruined by food bloggers and travel influencers. Your other option? Cooking your own meals. But wait, remember those hostels we talked about? Most of them now have minimal kitchens with one working burner, a single pot shared between 40 guests, and a refrigerator situation that makes you question every food safety rule you've ever learned. And those Airbnbs with fully equipped kitchens, they've got 2 forks, 1 dull knife, and a microwave. Getting around used to be one area where you could actually save money by being flexible and doing research. Not anymore. Welcome to the era of dynamic pricing, surge pricing, and algorithmic pricing, basically, every form of pricing designed to extract maximum money from you at all times. Budget airlines, which were once the salvation of poor travelers, have become masters of the hidden fee game. Your €19 flight from London to Rome. That doesn't include a carry-on bag, €25. A seat selection, because you'll literally be assigned a random seat at the gate otherwise, €15. Online check-in, €8. Yes, they charge you to check in online now, and printing your boarding pass if you forgot to do it, €50. Oh, and that flight leaves at 6 a.m. from an airport that's 90 minutes outside the city, so add another €30 for a taxi because public transport isn't running yet. Ground transportation isn't any better. Buses used to be the budget traveler's best friend, cheap, reliable, and everywhere. But consolidation in the bus industry means fewer companies, less competition, and higher prices. That overnight bus from Budapest to Prague that used to cost €15, it's now €45, and it's basically the same uncomfortable experience it's always been, just with a fancier website. And don't even get me started on ride-sharing apps. Uber, Bolt, and their competitors have successfully destroyed traditional taxi systems in many cities, then jacked up their prices once the competition was eliminated. Surge pricing means that getting back to your hostel after a night out can cost more than your actual accommodation. I paid €38 for a 15-minute Uber ride in Amsterdam at 1 a.m. last weekend. That's more than some people's daily budget for an entire day of travel. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Visa costs and requirements have become absolutely insane in 2026. Countries have figured out that they can monetize tourism through visa fees, and they're doing it aggressively. The UK tourist visa now costs over $130 just to apply, and that's non-refundable even if you're rejected. Australia charges $150 for their electronic visitor visa. Even countries that used to offer visa on arrival for most nationalities are now requiring advance applications with fees, but the money is just the beginning. The documentation requirements have become so extensive that you practically need to prove you're more financially stable than a small bank to visit anywhere. Proof of accommodation for your entire trip, proof of sufficient funds, often requiring bank statements showing thousands of dollars, return flight bookings, travel insurance, and sometimes even invitation letters from citizens of the country you're visiting. Speaking of travel insurance, this has become mandatory in many destinations, and it's not cheap. Comprehensive coverage that meets the requirements for places like the Schengen area can run you $50 to $100 per month. For budget travelers planning long trips, this is a massive expense that didn't exist or wasn't enforced just a few years ago. Remember when traveling meant exploring a place, walking around, soaking up the atmosphere, and maybe visiting a museum or two? In 2026, everything has become an experience, and experiences cost money. Cities have figured out how to monetize every single tourist activity. Want to see that famous viewpoint? That'll be a €15 entrance fee. Want to walk through the old town? Many European cities now charge entrance fees to their historic centers. Beach access? Increasingly privatized or requiring day passes. That famous street everyone photographs? There's now a security guard making sure you paid the viewing fee. Museums and historical sites have become luxury experiences. The Louvre now costs over €25. The Vatican museums are €35, and even smaller local museums that used to be €5 are now charging 15 to 20. The free museum day that used to be a budget traveler's saving grace. Most major museums have eliminated them or made them so restrictive, first Sunday of the month but only in the off-season and only for EU residents, that they're essentially useless for most travelers. Budget travel in 2026 also suffers from a digitization problem that disproportionately affects people without much money. Everything now requires booking in advance, and booking in advance requires money up front. Want to visit that famous temple? You can't just show up anymore? You need to book a time slot online days in advance, and you need to pay with a credit card. Many attractions, restaurants, and even some hostels have eliminated walk-in options entirely. This means budget travelers can't be spontaneous or take advantage of last-minute deals. They need to commit money before they even leave home. This advanced booking culture also eliminates the ability to be flexible with your itinerary, which was one of the key ways budget travelers used to save money. You could stay longer in cheap places and leave expensive ones quickly. Now, with everything pre-booked and often non-refundable, you're locked into your plans, even if you discover that a place is way more expensive than you anticipated. Here's a truth that hurts. Social media has essentially destroyed the concept of off-the-beaten-path travel, which was the secret sauce of budget exploration. Every cheap destination gets discovered, posted about, and subsequently ruined within about 18 months now. Some beautiful coastal town in Albania where you could rent a house for €20 a night? A travel influencer posted about it, and now it's full of boutique hotels charging €150. That incredible street food stall in Vietnam? It went viral on TikTok, and now there's a 2-hour line and prices have quadrupled. So, where does this leave budget travel in 2026? Honestly, in a really tough spot. The math just doesn't work anymore in most places. That famous $1 per day travel that people achieved in the early 2000s? Impossible. Even $50 per day in most destinations? Extremely difficult unless you're willing to make compromises that basically defeat the purpose of traveling. You'll spend more time worrying about money than enjoying your trip. You'll skip experiences because you can't afford them. You'll eat instant noodles in your hostel while other travelers go out to dinner. You'll take 6-hour bus connections instead of 1-hour flights to save €40, effectively valuing your time at less than minimum wage. You'll stay in accommodations so far from city centers that you spend half your day commuting. Look, I'm not saying budget travel is impossible in 2026. People are still doing it. But it's important to be honest about what it actually means now. It means sacrifice, frustration, and often not actually experiencing the places you're visiting because you're too focused on survival mode economics. The travel industry has collectively decided that if you can't afford to participate in the commodified, pre-packaged, Instagrammable version of travel, then maybe you shouldn't be traveling at all. Every system has been optimized to extract maximum revenue, and budget travelers are increasingly seen not as customers, but as inconveniences. So if you're planning to travel on a budget in 2026, go in with your eyes open. Triple whatever budget you think you need. Expect disappointment. Prepare for prices to be higher than any blog post or YouTube video suggests. And maybe, just maybe, consider that saving for a few more months to travel slightly less budget, might actually result in a better experience than white-knuckling your way through a trip where every decision is governed by anxiety about money. Because in 2026, budget travel doesn't suck because travelers have changed. It sucks because the entire world has been redesigned to make sure that being poor and wanting to see it is as difficult and unpleasant as possible. And that's the truth nobody wants to tell you.